A groundbreaking ballot measure in California will help us fight socialism. Coming up, we'll tell you all about the California Personal Finance Initiative and why you should vote for it. Plus, a former legislator admits he's been keeping secrets from his constituents. All that and more coming right up. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California, and there's no doubt about it. California is on the path to socialism under one-party Democrat liberal rule. We've seen high taxes, government expansion, and the overregulation of the economy such that it has destroyed jobs and really infringed upon consumer choice. Socialism doesn't work, but the voters don't know that. In fact, the voters aren't really getting a good education in California public schools, and that is by design. The liberal politicians and those on the far left want to use our schools not as the centers of learning to prepare kids for living productive lives in a 21st century economy. Instead, they want to use our schools as indoctrination centers. You see all sorts of crazy political agendas being advanced inside the classroom, with parents being told, shut up and sit down. You don't get a right to review curriculum. You don't get a right to weigh in on curriculum. The schools have become incubators of the rotten, bad ideas of the left. Well, there is a movement to push back on that. And it doesn't just take the form of electing better school trustees and school board members. It's taking the form of common sense initiatives to impose curriculum requirements on schools. Let me talk a little bit about that. There's an initiative on that will be on the November ballot. They had to get 600,000 signatures. They submitted over 900,000 signatures to qualify the initiative. Here's what it's called: the California Personal Finance Education Act. What does it require? Well, it requires that there be a semester course that every student will have to take and complete in order to graduate from school and get a high school degree in the state of California. Now, here is the actual language. Now, the initiative amends Section 35 of Chapter 571 of the California Education Code. And the California Education Code does outline a number of basic requirements to graduate from school. Doesn't require that you actually learn, but it requires you take these courses. So the existing language requires 3 courses in English, 2 courses in math, 2 courses in science, 3 courses in social studies. They say that they can choose between history and geography, world history, culture and geography, American government and civics, and economics. So that's broadly defined. Are they teaching the right U.S. history? No. World history? Frankly, if you don't know U.S. history, who cares? Culture. That's where you open the door. So there's no specific requirement that they take civics or American government. More on that soon. A course in visual or performing arts, and 2 courses in education, physical education. Here's the amendment. In addition to all of that, commencing with the 2029 to 2030 school year, there will be a requirement for 1 semester of personal finance. In 2026 to 2027, it's an optional requirement that the schools have to offer the class, but it's not a requirement. But by 2029 or 2030, there will be a requirement for personal finance. Now, what is personal finance going to teach? Well, first, you can learn about budgeting skills for independent living, understanding the U.S. tax system, how it impacts your personal income, the process to file taxes, how to read tax forms and pay stubs, understanding retirement accounts and investment alternatives to build your own personal financial security, including 401ks, IRAs, stocks, bonds, mutual fund, and index funds. Evaluating types of credit, understanding the dangers of predatory lending, the importance of managing credit, including how to establish your own personal credit history, the role of credit scores and credit reports, consumer protection by raising awareness on scams and frauds, including identity theft, how to finance college or workforce education, and the features of a bank account, including how to manage accounts online and minimizing fees. Wow, talk about important topics. Very useful to living a good life with financial security. It's the basics. We used to call this home economics, right? But we don't teach this in school. It's not been required. But in California, this ballot measure will require personal finance and those types of subjects be taught in a one-semester course that all students have to take. This is brilliant. And it's brilliant for 3 reasons. Number 1, kids are going to benefit from this. Number 2, if you want to combat socialism, we've got to explain to kids how the economy works, how taxes impact them, what they have to look for in understanding their real tax burden, why they should save money, why they should invest in a 401k, the dangers of not having a 401k. You're going to trust Social Security? Fat chance. Understanding scams. All of these elements are crucial to understand how an economy really works, how personal finance and economic finance works. And if you have a little bit of knowledge on these topics, you are less susceptible to falling into the scams that the far left tries to peddle for high taxes, free lunches, and socialism. Now, does it make someone immune to the arguments for socialism? No. But we have a much better chance of fighting socialist ideas and fighting high taxes and encouraging financial independence if every student at least gets exposed to these concepts in a one-semester course in order to graduate with a high school degree. Again, this is not a one-size-fits-all panacea, but it is important in the fight against socialism. The third reason why this is important is by having an additional requirement for a core semester course in personal finance, you crowd out all the woke requirements because there's only so many courses kids can take. And by adding a new requirement, it hopefully will be taking the place of some of the woke nonsense courses that the kids are offered these days. Now, I'm in support of this initiative. I think you should vote for this initiative in the November election. But the media is already gearing up. The liberal medias, they're already trying to throw cold water on this idea. Here's Cal Matters. California could require kids to learn how to manage money. Should voters decide curriculum? By Carolyn Jones. She basically says school curriculum is usually the purview of education experts. But this fall, it could be decided by, God forbid, the California voters. Oh, the horror of it. How are the education experts faring? Yeah, not so good, particularly in California. They are trying to teach kids false narratives on U.S. history. They don't even explain civics or the Constitution. All those things have been thrown out the door by these so-called education experts that we should be depending on. It's all been replaced by grotesque and inappropriate sex ed curriculum, as well as critical race theory and also this other garbage that, again, is exposing kids to controversial topics at much too young of an age, or complete falsehoods. Parents have been cut out of the curriculum, and 2/3 of kids are failing math in the state of California. 50% of kids are failing reading and writing. So spare me your argument that somehow we ought to continue to trust the education experts. I think a good old-fashioned common sense course in home economics is well overdue. Hey, you could even get people like, who's that blonde financial advisor that was on all the cable channels in public education? Susan Powder, the one that's kind of crazy. I don't know if that's her name. But anyway, there are a lot of people out there who are preaching the truth. But sadly, people are watching those online shows, YouTube videos of personal finance experts by the time they're 40 and 50 years old, and that's probably too late. Educating kids in their teens, much, much more effective in getting them the tools they need to better manage their money and to be a little bit more aware before they go in the workplace, before they apply for loans, for college degrees, on how the world really works. That first credit card, they can do a lot of damage to their credit rating on that first credit card. So this is so important that we advance this initiative. But you're going to have these arrogant liberal snobs in the media saying, tisk, tisk, why should we let the voters decide on curriculum? Well, the voters should be in charge. And I think that this is a pretty common sense concept. Now, the title and summary, we don't know what it's going to look like on the ballot. Certainly, they're not going to be, the current proposed title and summary I've got right here. Instead of the personal finance initiative, they've got currently adds 1 semester personal finance course to high school graduation requirements initiative statute. Not the worst ballot title I've seen. Here's the summary. Adds a 1 semester personal finance course to existing graduation requirements for public high school students, beginning with 2030. Requires schools to begin offering the course in 2026. The course would be in addition to currently required courses in economics. Students may fulfill by completing a University of California approved personal finance course. Summary estimate of fiscal impact. Potential increased cost to schools that could reach in the high tens of millions of dollars annually in the first few years, then likely to decline over time. Costs could be related to additional teachers, curriculum development, instructional materials. Oh, give me a break. When they implement the nonsense CRT initiatives, they don't talk about the cost. They say, oh, no, this is absorbed in the normal budget to develop curriculum, and teachers know how to teach this stuff. But, oh, my goodness, if you're teaching kids about the basics of how the world works from an economic standpoint or finance standpoint, these common sense topics suddenly are going to cost us tens of millions of dollars. Oh, my goodness, we can't expend these dollars on this. Well, at first, I don't buy that it's going to cost money because we teach a certain number of courses throughout the day. But second, how much money will it save by combating financial dependency? How much money will it save by combating socialism? It'll save a tremendous amount of money. And people will be better off because at least these kids will have more knowledge about personal finance before they make the life-altering decisions and learn lessons the hard way. Real quick, and by the way, you will have more information on that on our voter guide. It's one of the initiatives of many initiatives that we're backing and some of the initiatives that we're opposing in the November election. Our full list of recommendations for the November election on ballot measures, both for state and local measures, is on our website at electionguidecalifornia.org. That's electionguidecalifornia.org. Please help us support those ballot measures and oppose the bad ballot measures by chipping in a contribution at reformcalifornia.org. And of course, to make sure you get the updated voter guide when we release it in September, sign up at the bottom portion of the website at reformcalifornia.org. First name, last name, email, phone, and zip code so that we can get you our voter guide for free, and you can distribute it to your friends and family. Real quick, I want to cover this other story very briefly. There has been talk about these insane and very disrespectful non-disclosure agreements that politicians and special interests use in the California state legislature to keep secrets from you. What happens is they sign these agreements. They don't tell you about these agreements muzzling our legislators, legislative staff, anyone who lobbies, as they horse trade and they get special consideration and sweetheart deals in state legislation. This is insane. It is so offensive that they're entering into secret, no kiss and tell agreements. And that the legislators who are supposed to be working for you are signing these agreements. This is, again, not the way government should be working. Government should be transparent. There should be no secrets. There should be no side contracts with special interest lobbyists that, we won't tell anyone what you asked us to do. We won't tell you that you crafted the language and put it into state law. We won't tell you what negotiations happened behind closed doors. These are public laws. Government officials that are supposed to represent you, who are going behind closed doors and subjecting themselves to secret agreements. No, I don't think so. I think these should be banned. These should be illegal. You and I know that, but the politicians inside the system think that, no, these are good ideas. KCRA in Sacramento interviewed former state senator, state assembly member, former speaker of the assembly, Bob Hertzberg, big old swamp creature from Los Angeles. This is what he had to say. He proudly admitted that he signed these agreements himself while he was in office.
Disrespect to your reporting, but it's a lot of noise.
Former state senator and Assembly Speaker Bob Hertzberg says non-disclosure agreements are important tools to bridge trust between groups that absolutely hate each other.
You had these people, like literally the Palestinians and the Jews, fighting each other for year after year after year. And what do we need to do to get them in the room?
Hertzberg says they can be helpful to avoid expensive ballot battles. He says negotiating the issues before it reaches that point can be better for the public.
I have been involved.
It's better for the public that we don't put things on the ballot and let the people decide. That's right. Let us elites decide. And you don't need to know that we decided because we're sworn to secrecy through a non-disclosure agreement. You arrogant prick. You are exactly the epitome of why the system is broken. Oh, yeah, the public doesn't need to know. We got to get the Palestinians and the Jews behind closed doors. These are lobbyists. You're describing it as some sort of like peace treaty that you're ironing out. No, these people should be able to state their case in open forum. The public deserves to know their position, and they deserve to know the pro and con, and they deserve to know where you, the elected officials who should be working for us, where you come down on the issue, not some secret agreement behind closed doors.
In many of them, on rent control, on privacy, on lead paint, on plastic bags, on so many things, and hopefully we...
That's right. On rent control and lead paint and the environment. We got to keep secrets from you on lead paint. Listen to yourself, Bob.
Get a better resolution where people now have to come to the table because there's one of these things on the ballot that's a gun to the head.
Wait. We get a better resolution when we have non-disclosure agreements. When we keep secrets, we get a better resolution. No, I don't think secrets ever lead to better resolution. I think transparency is the sunshine. The sunshine is the disinfectant of corruption.
Legislature to fix this.
Over the last few months through our reporting, we've heard that their use is just not common. The California Business Roundtable last week said it had reached out to previous administrations, and not one said that they could even think about using them. So are you saying that's inaccurate?
There was a gentleman who was looking to put something on the ballot. I don't know if he already had it qualified or was getting signatures or whatever on rent control. And so there was a discussion between the apartment people, the real estate people, and the rent control people. And they called on me, Hertzberg, we do us a favor and do a mediation to see if we can come up with a solution. There was no legislation pending. We're trying to fix a problem. And so they made me sign a confidentiality agreement. So I've seen it happen before.
When you signed the non-disclosure agreement, After the fact, did you feel like it kept you from talking about those negotiations?
We weren't successful. Nothing had happened. We weren't able to get the measure off the ballot, and it went forward and it lost on the ballot. But no, it didn't really impact me.
And it didn't really impact me. I was sworn to secrecy, and I'm not going to tell you what we talked about behind closed doors, but no, it didn't really impact me. You know who it impacted, Bob? It impacted the public. You know, the people you're sworn to serve. A process that should be open and transparent, you put a big old curtain in front of. Didn't impact me. No. It's all good. I didn't get hurt. You're part of the problem, Bob. Your system stinks to high heaven. There is no justification for non-disclosure agreements in a public legislative process, period. End of story. People ought to present their points of view on public policy matters without reservation, without secrets, and let the people decide. And yes, sometimes people decide by voting on things, Bob, and that's not a bad thing to have direct democracy. And sometimes our legislators vote on things, but we need to know who's whispering sweet nothings in their ears. This guy literally doesn't get it. He did an interview saying NDAs are so useful, they're so good. This is the sort of rot and corruption that we fight every day at Reform California. We're trying to elect better people than Bob Hertzberg to the state legislature who will not allow NDAs, who will vote to ban them, because that bill is still pending. It was killed by the Sacramento swamp. But we need to have a transparent and open and accountable process in our state legislature. Help us recruit and train and support and endorse those candidates and help us elect them into office. Go to our website, reformcalifornia.org, and chip in a contribution today. That does it for me. Until next time, Carl DeMaio, Chairman of Reform California. Help us break through the censorship of the liberal media. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and smash that notification button so you can stay up to date on all the developments in California news and politics. Also, please visit the website, reformcalifornia.org, for ongoing news coverage and to join one of our campaigns in the fight to take back our state. If you can, please sign up as a volunteer or chip in a contribution. This episode of Reform California with Carl DeMaio, paid for by Carl DeMaio for State Assembly 2024.